A police officer pulled a gun on a man who was only trying to buy a cup of coffee. He laughed at the badge the man showed him. Minutes later, that same officer stood frozen while federal agents surrounded him from every side. The crowd watched. Phones were raised. Voices whispered. And the moment the officer thought he was in control was the moment. Everything broke apart. This story began on a Wednesday that should have meant nothing. No storms. No crime alerts. Just a regular morning in a quiet corner of Maple Ridge, South Carolina. A place where gas stations filled with workers. On their way to jobs they did not want and students dragging backpacks. Heavier than their motivation? But one man stood out the moment he stepped out of his black SUV. His name was Marcus. Hale, 43 years old. Tall. Stillness. In his eyes that came from years of walking into dangerous situations without raising his voice. He wore a fitted navy suit with a crisp white shirt and no tie. A small earpiece tucked behind his right ear. A badge resting discreetly inside his jacket. He carried himself like someone who had seen more than he ever said out loud. Marcus was not in Maple Ridge for show. He was there because he needed one simple thing. Coffee. Nothing more. He walked into the Pinecrest Fuel Mart, nodded politely at the cashier, poured a large black coffee, and left without a word. He stepped through the doors into the soft morning light, took a deep breath, and that was when trouble arrived in the form of a police cruiser with fading paint and a loud engine that rattled long after the key turned. Deputy Evan Brooks. Broad shoulders. Short blonde hair. Mirrored glasses, even though the sky was layered with clouds. A man known around the county for the wrong reasons. A short temper, long complaints, and a habit of turning small moments into battles he believed he had to win. Brooks pulled the wheel sharply, landing crooked between two pumps. He saw Marcus. He saw the SUV. He saw the suit. And he put his hand on his holster before saying a single word. A few people glanced at the scene but kept moving. For now, Brooks stepped out fast and walked toward Marcus like he had already decided the ending of the story. "You with that car?" he demanded. Marcus looked at him calmly. "Yes, officer." "Why do you ask?" "Registration now. And tell me your name." Marcus blinked once. "Officer, I am on official duty." "I can show you my identity." Brooks cut him off. "I asked for your name." His voice grew louder, sharper. The kind of tone designed to force fear onto someone who had done nothing wrong. Marcus spoke softly. "My name is Marcus Hale, Deputy Director, United States Protective Agency." Brooks scoffed, shook his head, and stepped closer. There was no respect in his expression. Only disbelief. Only assumption. Only bias? You expect me to believe that? Everybody buys some badge off the internet these days. You think that suit makes you important? Brooks said. A man pumping gas paused with his hand still on the handle. A teenager near the air pump quietly raised her phone. Another driver rolled down his window to listen. Marcus stayed composed. "Officer, if you allow me to reach into my jacket, I can show you my credentials." Brooks took a step back, then another forward. Then he pulled his gun. A woman at pump 3 gasped. Someone whispered, "Oh my God." Phones lifted higher. Marcus set his coffee on the ground. He knelt slowly. He laced his fingers behind his head. His voice stayed steady. "I am not a threat. My badge is inside my jacket on the left." But Brooks did not care. He circled Marcus with the confidence of someone who expected the world to back him no matter what. He looked at the SUV like it was evidence for a crime that did not exist. He moved fast toward it, yanked the door open, and began searching. He did not find drugs. He did not find weapons. He found something worse for him. A government tablet in a dock. A secured ID clipped inside the glove compartment. Classified protocols on the locked screen. Brooks hesitated for the first time. Marcus spoke loud enough for the crowd to hear. "You just searched a federal vehicle without cause." The officer's jaw tightened. "You impersonated a federal officer. That is a felony." Before Marcus could respond, another SUV rolled into the station. Black tinted windows. Silent engine. stopping so smoothly that only trained eyes would recognize what kind of people were inside. Brooks did not see it. He was too busy pacing around Marcus, with his weapon still pointed, but someone inside that second vehicle saw everything, and they were not amused. The next 90 seconds would flip the entire situation. Nobody knew it yet. Not the bystanders. Not the officer. Not even Marcus. But the air had shifted. The crowd felt it. The officer did not. And the real story was only beginning. The door of the second SUV opened before anyone understood what was happening. A woman stepped out with calm confidence that silenced half the parking lot. Her name was Alicia Ward, tall, focused, clothed in all black, with an earpiece glinting just under her hair. She moved with the kind of discipline that only came from years of federal work. Her eyes scanned the scene once, and that was enough. She walked straight toward Marcus without hesitation. Director Hale status. Marcus did not move from his kneeling position. Local officer. Unjustified stop. Weapon drawn. Unauthorized search of my vehicle. I have not resisted. Alicia's focus snapped to Deputy Brooks. What do you think you're doing? She demanded. Brooks lowered his gun an inch, surprised by her authority. Who are you? She pulled her badge from her jacket with a sharp motion. Senior Agent Alicia Ward, United States Protective Agency. And that man kneeling on the pavement is my superior? The crowd stiffened. A few people murmured. The teenager recording whispered, Holy, he really messed up. Brooks blinked, stunned but unwilling to back down. He claimed he was federal. I wasn't about to take that at face value. He pointed a weapon at a federal official, Alicia said. That is not doubt. That is misconduct. Brooks swallowed hard. For a moment, he looked ready to argue again, but his voice came out smaller than before. I was doing my job, no, Alicia said. You were abusing it. Before she could continue, a third SUV entered the lot. This one moved faster. Tires barely whispered against the ground. Doors opened, and two men stepped out wearing fitted suits. No sunglasses. No swagger. Just sharp eyes and alert posture. The taller man, with streaks of gray at his temples, walked directly to Marcus as Director Hale. He said in a low voice, Are you injured? No. We have body cams rolling. Multiple witness recordings already captured. Local officer failed to verify identity before escalating force. Confirmed, Marcus replied. You may stand. Marcus rose slowly. Dust clung to his pants. He brushed it off with the same calm he had held through the entire confrontation. Alicia turned back to Brooks. Deputy, holster your weapon. Now, Brooks hesitated, chest tightening. I don't need federal suits coming in here flashing badges like the man with gray temples cut him off. Enough. Surrender your firearm and step away from Director Hale. Brooks looked around. The crowd was bigger now. People leaned out of their cars. Others stepped closer, phones raised like shields of truth. Someone shouted, I got all of it. He had the gun out the whole time. Another voice echoed, he didn't do anything wrong. Pressure wrapped around Brooks like a shrinking room. He pulled his gun from the holster very slowly and handed it grip first to the great impelled agent, who took it without blinking. Hands where we can see them, the agent ordered. Brooks obeyed, jaw tight, shoulders locked in forced pride. He looked like he wanted to keep the performance going, but the scene was slipping out of his control. The badge on his chest did not shield him. His authority did not matter. This time he had aimed at the wrong man. Alicia stepped beside Marcus. You good? She asked quietly. Better now. The hum of ordinary life crept back into the background. A fuel pump beeped its completion. A car rolled by on the highway, but the mood remained heavy. Everyone understood they were witnessing something that would not stay local. An older man near Pump 8 raised his voice. Send that video to somebody. They need to see this, the younger woman added. He was laughing at that badge. Laughing. The teenage girl recording held her phone higher. I got the whole thing. He's cooked. The great Immeld agent, whose name was Leon Mercer, faced the crowd. We will need all recordings. Our team will coordinate with each of you. A man near the snack machine yelled, "Y'all taking him in?" "Not yet," Mercer said. "We are processing this on scene." Two unmarked sedans turned into the lot. Not flashy. Not loud. But everyone recognized the seriousness in how they stopped. These were from the Department of Homeland Oversight. It's called the moment Marcus's badge registered as compromised during the confrontation. Brooks looked smaller now, like his uniform had shrunk, like he finally understood what he had started. Alicia pressed forward. "Deputy Brooks, you will sit in that vehicle while we complete initial documentation. You will be monitored." Brooks tried to speak. "This isn't how we do things around here." Leon Mercer stared him down. "That is exactly the problem." Brooks took a slow walk toward the unmarked car, shoulders rigid, face burning under the weight of dozens of eyes. He opened the door and sat quietly without a single word. Marcus watched him without anger, without triumph, only with the understanding of a man who had been in too many rooms where assumptions could end lives. A voice from the crowd broke the silence. "This is going everywhere." Another answered, "Good. Let it." Alicia stood beside Marcus. "You did everything right." Hey. Marcus nodded. "If I had moved wrong, this story would have ended differently." The teenager nodded at him with wide, shaken eyes. "You stayed calm. I don't know how you did." Marcus looked at her steadily. "You learn to survive moments other people escalate." She nodded and kept recording. The footage spread within minutes. Posts went up. Captions appeared faster than the officers could gather statements. Hashtags formed on the spot. Maple Ridge became the center of a story. It would spread far beyond that parking lot, but the real fallout had not even begun. The footage moved faster than anyone expected. Before the federal team finished their initial notes, the first upload was already gaining traction. A blurry clip, shaky at the start, but clear enough to show Marcus kneeling with his hands laced behind his head while Deputy Brooks aimed his weapon like he was in a standoff. The caption was short and brutal. He told him he was federal. Officer laughed. "Look who's in trouble now." By the time the sun lifted higher over Maple Ridge, the clip was everywhere. A woman at Pump 2 showed Alicia her screen. "It's already at 20,000 shares," she whispered. Another man refreshed his phone and gasped. 30,000 now. "Dang, this is blowing up," inside the Oversight Command SUV. Marcus sat with Alicia, Leon Mercer, and another official from the Department of Homeland Oversight named Riley Kent. She typed rapidly on a tablet, her expression tightening every few seconds as new clips came in. "We have 5 separate recordings," Riley said, "all from civilians. 3 have clear audio. 0 edits. Uploads are clean." Leon looked at Marcus. "You want to make a statement today?" Marcus shook his head immediately. "No press. Not now." "You're going to face pressure," Leon warned. "Public, internal, political. Already getting media pings. Morning shows. Cable news. Even overseas outlets." Marcus leaned back, quiet but unwavering. "They can wait for the truth," Riley sighed. "People are already guessing your name. Someone found a college photo that looks too much like you to ignore. It's circulating." Marcus did not flinch. "Let them guess." Outside, the local police department finally sent a liaison. Lieutenant Gary Holt, red-faced and sweating, hurried toward the team with agitation in every step. He paced around the oversight vehicle with a phone glued to his ear, muttering in clipped whispers. He kept glancing at the unmarked sedan, where Brooks sat, hands folded, staring at the back of the seat like he was trying to disappear into it, inside the gas station. The cashier, a thin young man named Adam, stood with his arms crossed as an agent took his statement. "I've seen that officer before," Adam said quietly. "He's always hot-headed. One time he yelled because I wouldn't unlock the beer fridge early. Thought he owned the place." The agent took notes. "What did you see today?" Adam rubbed the back of his neck. "At first I thought it was a robbery. Then I saw the man kneel and say he was federal. That's when I knew it was bad. I tried to pull out my phone, but the lady agent showed up before I could record something useful. Would you be willing to make a formal statement if needed?" Adam nodded. I don't want what happened to that man happening to me, just because someone doesn't like my jacket. Back outside, Alicia shifted her attention to Marcus again. You sure you're all right? Marcus nodded slowly. I'm used to watching these incidents from the outside. Not being in the middle, you've kept your composure. Most wouldn't have. I had to, Marcus answered. If I reacted like he expected, we'd be having a very different conversation. Leon looked between them with a frown. We just pulled Deputy Brooks's disciplinary file. Riley slid a folder across the console. Multiple complaints for aggressive conduct, 2 force-related incidents in the last 5 years. No suspensions. All complaints closed. Alicia shook her head with disbelief. They're about to tear that apart in the media. Marcus stared out the window. A small crowd had begun to gather at the edge of the parking lot. Some held hand-painted signs with messages that formed quicker than anyone could prepare for. Others held their phones up high, ready for the next update. Reporters tried to get closer until agents stepped in to keep the perimeter clean. This felt different from any crisis Marcus had worked. Not because it was the most dangerous, but because it was personal in a way he had avoided confronting for years. A quiet knock came on the door of the SUV. A tall man with silver hair and tired eyes stepped in. Director Harold Benton, head of regional operations. He closed the door gently. Marcus, he said, you handled that better than most could. Better than I probably would have. Marcus did not respond right away. I didn't see any other option. He made one. I reacted to it. Benton nodded slowly. I know men like Brooks. They never get this kind of pushback. Not unless things end in blood. This time it didn't. That matters. Marcus exhaled, hands clasped loosely. It shouldn't only matter because I lived. Benton looked at him carefully. You want to step away from this quietly? I will support you. But I think people need to hear from someone who didn't lose their calm. Someone who chose discipline when someone else chose fear. Marcus looked toward the window again. On a muted TV inside the station, a news anchor replayed the footage repeatedly. His still frame flashed across the screen, him kneeling, hands behind his head, gun pointed at him, crowd watching. Officer pacing like the hero of a story he imagined. The commentary bar beneath the video scrolled fast with opinions, reactions, arguments, shock. Marcus turned back to Benton. If I speak, it will be on my terms. One statement. No spin. Then that is what we will do. Outside, the noise of the crowd rose again. More people arrived. Car horns sounded in support. Someone held up a sign that read, "We saw everything." Another sign said, "Respect is earned." Abuse is recorded. Phones continued filming. People wanted answers. They wanted accountability. They wanted a voice, and Marcus would soon become that voice, whether he chose to or not. 3 days passed before Marcus finally stood in front of the public. Not in a courtroom, not in a press studio, but in a plain community center on the east side of Maple Ridge, where folding chairs scraped against the floor and neighbors came in wearing work boots, school uniforms, and tired expressions. 200 people filled the room until there was no space left. Nobody showed up for spectacle. They came because something inside them stirred when they saw the video. Curiosity, anger, recognition, hope. Something that felt bigger than a... Marcus did not wear a suit this time. Just dark slacks and a black sweater with the sleeves pushed back slightly. He stepped to the wooden podium, without fanfare, and without the rehearsed energy that politicians used when they wanted votes. He started with a steady breath. For 15 years, said, my job has been protecting people who will never know my name. That is how it is supposed to be. You blend in. You stay ready. You do not draw attention. His voice stayed warm, simple, human. But last week attention found me anyway. The room fell into a deep silence. No coughing. No whispers. Everyone wanted to hear every word. I was not mistaken for someone dangerous, he continued. I was not confused for a threat. I was judged in seconds because of what someone thought they saw. A young man in the second row leaned forward so far his elbows nearly touched the floor. Marcus paused. Not as a tactic, but because the truth needed a breath before it landed. I do not hate that officer, he said. I am not even angry anymore. What I feel is disappointment. A deep disappointment that someone who swore to protect the public only protected his assumptions. A soft murmur rippled through the crowd. Not loud enough to interrupt, but strong enough to show they understood. You saw the video, Marcus said. Some of you were there. Several heads nodded, but that wasn't the moment that mattered most to me, he continued. The moment that mattered was when I realized I had to choose who I wanted to be, even while someone else was trying to decide who I was. His words settled over the room like dust in sunlight, gentle, visible. If I had raised my voice, if I had moved too fast, if I had said one wrong sentence, I might not be standing here. Few people inhaled sharply. They knew it was true. My niece asked me this week, Marcus said softly. Uncle Marcus, why do people treat us differently when we did nothing wrong? He closed his eyes briefly, then opened them with a calm sadness. She is 12. And I could not give her a simple answer, because there is not one. A woman in the back wiped her eyes. But I told her this, he said. When someone else lowers the standard, you raise yours. When someone loses their temper, you keep your ground. You show the world who you are, even when they try to rewrite your story before it begins. Applause rose slowly. Not explosive, not desperate, just steady and full of recognition. After the event, Marcus stayed behind. People shook his hand. Some thanked him. Others apologized on behalf of a world they did not control. And an elderly man approached with careful steps. I was a police officer here for 30 years, the man said, voice rough with age. What happened to you embarrassed me, but hearing you speak reminded me who the badge is supposed to protect. Marcus nodded respectfully. Thank you. That means more than you know. That night, Marcus returned to his sister's house. His niece, Bria, sat at the kitchen table, coloring quietly, her pencil moving in soft arcs across the paper. Did people believe you today? She asked without looking up. I think so, Marcus said. She paused her drawing. Do you think it will happen again? Marcus hesitated, not because he did not know the answer, but because he knew it too well. I think some people will always make the wrong assumption, he said gently. But I also think a lot of people are paying attention now. They are learning. They are listening. Bria finally lifted her head. You didn't yell. No, Marcus replied, but I spoke loudly enough. She nodded and returned to her drawing, pressing her pencil a little harder. While the room grew quiet, the world outside was getting louder. Demands for accountability. Petitions, marches, discussions in classrooms and workplaces. Arguments on television screens. Debates on street corners. Everyone had something to say now, but Marcus did not join any of it. He stayed silent because silence, when chosen, can be power. And because he was waiting for something more meaningful than noise, he was waiting for change to speak for itself. The internal investigation stretched across 2 long weeks. Every complaint against Deputy Brooks that had once been brushed aside was pulled back into the light. Incidents he thought were buried resurfaced one by one. Aggressive stops. Unnecessary escalation. Witness statements that no one had taken seriously. Patterns became clear. Excuses collapsed. And the department had no way to pretend it all meant nothing. They suspended him without pay. No badge, no patrol car, no access to internal systems. For the first time in his career, he had to sit still and face what he had created. Marcus never commented publicly. He did not appear on morning shows. He refused interviews. He turned down every invitation to speak on networks arguing over the footage day and night. While the world kept replaying the moment he knelt in the fuel station parking lot, he quietly returned to his work. 3 weeks after the incident, Marcus stood again in front of a group, but this time it was not a crowd of neighbors or reporters. It was a classroom filled with new federal recruits at a training facility in Glendale, Georgia. Young faces. Fresh uniforms. People who still believed their purpose began the moment they pinned a badge to their chest. Marcus walked to the front of the room with steady steps. No speech in his hand. Only experience. Your job, he began, is not just protection. It is not planning routes or scanning threats or memorizing protocols. Your job is to see. The room grew still. Every trainee straightened. To see what is happening even when things move fast. To see what is beneath the surface. To see the difference between instinct and impulse. To see people as people, not assumptions. A young recruit in the back raised his hand. "Sir, how do you stay calm in moments like that? Moments where everything is stacked against you?" Marcus gave a small, thoughtful smile. "You do not train for calm. You train for clarity. Calm is the result. Clarity is the practice." The recruits listened, as though every word might decide the future they were about to step into. Clarity comes from listening, from patience, from knowing that if you are right, you never need to shout about it. Not once. When the session ended, most recruits gathered their notebooks and filed out. But a few lingered, unsure whether they should speak to him. One young woman finally approached. She looked about 25, with a quiet confidence in her eyes. "My brother watched your video," she said softly. "He does not trust law enforcement at all. But when he saw how you handled everything, he said, maybe not all of them are the same. I just wanted you to know that." Marcus nodded once. "Thank you. That matters." Later that evening, Marcus sat alone on the small balcony outside his hotel room. The sky shifted from orange to deep blue. Traffic hummed below. He held a glass of water in his hand, not drinking it, just feeling the coolness of it, while his thoughts drifted. His phone buzzed. A national op-ed had just been published. His statement from the community hall was now printed in full. People were calling it measured, powerful, necessary. Marcus did not open the article. Instead, he opened a message thread with Bria. He typed, "Keep asking questions. That is how we fix things. Love you." Seconds later, she replied with a photo. A drawing she made of him standing tall beside a police officer. Both figures drawn in her steady hand. Above them, she had written in bright crayon, "Be better than what they expect." Marcus felt something shift inside him. Not peace. Not closure. Something heavier and deeper. A reminder of why the moment mattered. The next morning, the final report was released. Clear language. No sugarcoating. No vague phrasing. It confirmed every detail. Brooks had escalated without cause. He had drawn his weapon without justification. He had violated multiple protocols and tampered with a secured federal vehicle. He was formally removed from duty pending disciplinary review. Maple Ridge held its breath. Some cheered. Some argued. Some pretended nothing had happened. But nobody forgot. Marcus returned to duty without the weight of publicity. He continued doing the work quietly, just as he had before. But something had changed around him. Officers paid more attention. Civilians watched more carefully. People asked different questions. They listened longer. They understood the stakes more clearly. What happened in that gas station did not magically fix anything. It did not erase years of patterns or heal every wound. But it taught a lesson that traveled far beyond a single parking lot in a small southern town. Respect is a choice. Bias is a danger. Silence can be strength. And dignity does not come from volume. It comes from character, especially when the world points its doubts at you. Every story leaves something behind. This one left a reminder that integrity can stand firm even when someone tries to break it. That truth eventually finds its way to the surface. And that how you carry yourself when nobody believes you reveals the badge you wear inside long before the one on your chest. If this story stays with you, let it. Stories like this are not just told, they are lived.